How might parishes strike a balance between ensuring that those with a disability and their families are made to feel welcome without drawing unnecessary attention to the family or the person as different?
I think it's a great question, and I was thinking very much on a practical level, and I started to think about old people in parishes, and I've just recently finished a lot of work in parishes on a child-safe environment, and there's a lot of old people in our parishes. And in some ways, a lot of the elderly, the aged people, can have similar needs to people with disability. So then I started to think, well, if you have a child-safe policy, do parishes have an inclusion policy? And how do they inform the people in the parish about inclusiveness, and how do they make that a reality in their parish? So then I got to thinking, well, we need ramps, and I love that story on the video. The locked door at the end of the ramp. I have heard that story before. Not that particular one, but I've heard the same story. And why is it at the side? Why isn't it at the front, where everyone else enters the church? Do we have hearing loops for people with hearing aids? They may not be deaf, but they have a hearing loss. Do we have large print PowerPoints, newsletters, notices, parish notices? Well over 20 years ago, I used to edit a parish magazine in Adelaide, and the request, and this was in the days when you could, there were photocopies, so we had people that asked for large print. We used to print 50 copies, large print, every month, and people knew exactly where to go to get those. So I just think some of those things that are very, very practical. It always gets me, because I have had a lot of connection with the deaf community, that why does Mass or the readings at Mass have to be, if there's deaf people in the parish, why does it have to be the hearing person reading and the Auslan person interpreting? Why can't the reader be deaf and the interpreter, do the reverse interpreting? So why don't we think like that a little bit more? And I suppose if you have a policy and you have standards, then you can actually make it an active thing in your parish. So I just think that we need to think about that. I also think about what do we do about mainstream. We have International Day for Disability, I think, persons with disability. Is that an alive thing in our parishes? How do we promote that? How do we encourage greater knowledge? If we have people in our parishes that may have disability, we ever provide information to help connect with those people more, or mental health issues, or autism, or whatever the need might be. The deaf story there of Katrina, the different levels of language, having someone come and speak to the parishioners about the needs, what it's like to be a deaf person, those opportunities. So, I think they're the sorts of things that I think parishes can do if they've got a passion and a commitment for it, and a belief that everybody's got the right to an equal participation. And if we started thinking just, do the scan of the environment, are our elderly being well catered for? And I'll be pretty sure that if you did a scan, you're going to find things that they're not. Okay, now let's have an overlay of that for people that might have disability. And then, of course, there's the whole thing about culture. But if you start looking at that level, you start to create a new culture about inclusivity and acceptance, and and a community of that reflects the rest of society.